From translation, RSV Revised Standard Version, this 119th day of the year, today we are reading passages 2 Kings 23-25, 2 Kings chapter 23, verses 1 to 37. And the king sent, and they gathered to him all the elders of Judah and Jerusalem. And the king went up to the house of the Lord, and all the men of Judah and all the inhabitants of Jerusalem with him, and the priests and the prophets, all the people, both small and great. And he read in their hearing all the words of the book of the covenant, which had been found in the house of the Lord. And the king stood by the pillar and made a covenant before the Lord, to walk after the Lord, and to keep his commandments and his testimonies and his statutes, with all his heart and all his soul, to perform the words of this covenant that were written in this book. And all the people joined the covenant. And the king commanded Hilkiah the high priest, and the priests of the second rank, and the doorkeepers, to cast out of the temple of the Lord all the vessels made for Baal, for Asherah, and for all the host of heaven. And he burned them outside Jerusalem in the fields of the Kidron, and carried their ashes to Bethel. And he deposed the idolatrous priests, whom the kings of Judah had ordained to burn incense in the high places in the cities of Judah, and in the places around Jerusalem. Those also who burned incense to Baal, to the sun, and the moon, and the constellations, and all the host of heaven. And he brought out the Asherah from the house of the Lord, outside Jerusalem, to the brook Kidron, and burned it at the brook Kidron, and beat it to dust, and cast the dust of it into the brook Kidron. And he broke down the houses of the cult prostitutes which were in the house of the Lord, where the women wove hangings for the Asherah. And he brought all the priests out of the cities of Judah, and defiled the high places where the priests had burned incense, from Geba to Beersheba. And he broke down the high places of the gates which were at the entrance of the gate of Joshua the governor of the city, which were on one's left at the gate of the city. However, the priests of the high places did not come up to the altar of the Lord in Jerusalem, but they ate unleavened bread among their brethren. And he defiled Topheth, which is in the valley of Ben Hinnom, that no man might make his son or his daughter pass through the fire to Melech. And he removed the horses that the kings of Judah had dedicated to the sun, at the entrance to the house of the Lord, by the chamber of Nathan Melech the chamberlain, which was in the precincts. And he burned the chariots of the sun with fire. And the altars on the roof of the upper chamber of Ahaz, which the kings of Judah had made, and the altars which Manasseh had made in the two courts of the house of the Lord, he pulled down and broke in pieces, and cast the dust of them into the brook Kidron. And the king defiled the high places that were east of Jerusalem, to the south of the Mount of Corruption, which Solomon the king of Israel had built for Ashtoreth the abomination of the Sidonians, and for Chemosh the abomination of Moab, and for Melech the abomination of the Ammonites. And he broke in pieces the pillars, and cut down the Asherahs, and filled their places with the bones of men. Moreover, the altar at Bethel, the high place made by Jeroboam the son of Nebat, who made Israel to sin, that altar and the high place he pulled down and burned, according to the word of the man of God, who cried out by the word of the Lord against the altar at Bethel, and against all the houses of the high places that were in the cities of Samaria. And Josiah turned, and saw the tombs that were there on the mount. And the king sent and took the bones out of the tombs, and burned them upon the altar, and defiled it, according to the word of the Lord which the man of God proclaimed, who proclaimed these things. Then he said, What is that monument that I see? And the men of the city told him, It is the tomb of the man of God who came from Judah, and proclaimed these things that you have done against the altar at Bethel. And he said, Let him be, let no man move his bones. So they let his bones alone, with the bones of the prophet who came out of Samaria. And the altars that were on the roof of the upper chamber of Ahaz, which the kings of Judah had made, and the altars which Manasseh had made in the two courts of the house of the Lord, the king broke down and beat them therefrom. And he dashed them to pieces, and cast the dust of them into the brook Kidron. And he slew all the priests of the high places who were there, upon the altars, and burned human bones upon them. Then he returned to Jerusalem. And the king commanded all the people, Keep the Passover to the Lord your God, as it is written in this book of the covenant. For no such Passover had been kept since the days of the judges who judged Israel, or in all the days of the kings of Israel, or of the kings of Judah. But in the 18th year of King Josiah, this Passover was kept to the Lord in Jerusalem. Moreover, Josiah put away the mediums, and the wizards, and the teraphim and the idols, and all the abominations that were seen in the land of Judah, and in Jerusalem, that he might confirm the words of the law which were written in the book that Hilkiah the priest found in the house of the Lord. And there was no more a prophet in the land of Israel, but the man of God was there. And Josiah feared the Lord and followed the Lord with all his heart and with all his soul, and did not turn aside from following him, but kept his commandments which the Lord commanded Moses. Before him there was no king like him, who turned to the Lord with all his heart and with all his soul and with all his might, according to all the law of Moses, nor after him did there arise any like him. Notwithstanding, the Lord did not turn from the fierceness of his great wrath, with which his anger was kindled against Judah, because of all the provocations with which Manasseh had provoked him. And the Lord said, I will remove Judah also out of my sight, as I have removed Israel, and I will cast off this city which I have chosen, even Jerusalem, and the house of which I said, my name shall be there. Now the rest of the acts of Josiah, and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? In his days Pharaoh Necho king of Egypt went up to the king of Assyria to the river Euphrates. King Josiah went to meet him, and Pharaoh Necho slew him at Megiddo when he saw him. And his servants carried him dead in a chariot from Megiddo, and brought him to Jerusalem, and buried him in his own tomb. And the people of the land took Jehoahaz the son of Josiah, and anointed him, and made him king in his father's place. Jehoahaz was 23 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 3 months in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Hamutal, the daughter of Jeremiah of Libnah, and he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, according to all that his fathers had done. And Pharaoh Necho put him in bonds at Riblah in the land of Hamath, that he might not reign in Jerusalem, and laid upon the land a tribute of 100 talents of silver and a talent of gold. And Pharaoh Necho made Eliakim the son of Josiah king in the place of Josiah his father, and changed his name to Jehoiakim. But he took Jehoahaz away, and he came to Egypt, and died there. And Jehoiakim gave the silver and the gold to Pharaoh, but he taxed the land to give the money according to the command of Pharaoh. He exacted the silver and the gold of the people of the land, from everyone according to his assessment, to give it to Pharaoh Necho. Jehoiakim was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Zebudah the daughter of Pedaiah of Rumah, and he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, according to all that his fathers had done. 2 Kings chapter 24, verses 1 to 17. In his days Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon came up, and Jehoiakim became his servant for 3 years. Then he turned and rebelled against him. And the Lord sent against him bands of the Chaldeans, and bands of the Arameans, and bands of the Moabites, and bands of the Ammonites, and sent them against Judah to destroy it, according to the word of the Lord which he spoke by his servants the prophets. Surely this came upon Judah at the command of the Lord, to remove them from his sight, because of the sins of Manasseh, according to all that he had done, and also for the innocent blood that he had shed. For he filled Jerusalem with innocent blood, and the Lord would not pardon. And the rest of the acts of Jehoiakim, and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? Then Jehoiachin his son reigned in his stead. And the king of Babylon in the days of Jehoiachin carried away captive into Babylon the vessels of the house of the Lord, and he made his brother Zedekiah king over Judah and Jerusalem. Jehoiachin was 18 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 3 months in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Nehushta the daughter of Elnathan of Jerusalem. And he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, according to all that his father had done. At that time the servants of Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon came up to Jerusalem, and the city was besieged. And Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon came to the city, while his servants were besieging it, and King Jehoiachin of Judah gave himself up to the king of Babylon. He also took the mother of the king and the king's wives, and his officials and the mighty men of the land, he carried away into exile from Jerusalem to Babylon. And all the vessels of the house of God, great and small, and the treasures of the house of the Lord, and the treasures of the king and of his princes, all these he brought to Babylon. And he carried away into exile all Jerusalem, all the officials and all the mighty men of valor, 10,000 captives, and all the craftsmen and the smiths. None remained except the poorest people of the land. And he burned the house of God, and broke down the wall of Jerusalem, and burned all its palaces with fire, and destroyed all its precious vessels. And he carried away into exile those who had escaped from the sword, and all the craftsmen and the smiths. None remained except the poorest people of the land. And he made Mattaniah, his uncle, king in his stead, and changed his name to Zedekiah. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Hamutal, the daughter of Jeremiah of Libnah. And he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, according to all that Jehoiakim had done. 2 Kings chapter 25, verses 1 to 30. In the 9th year of his reign, in the 10th month, on the 10th day of the month, Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon came with all his army against Jerusalem, and laid siege to it. And they built siege works against it all around. So the city was besieged till the 11th year of King Zedekiah. On the 9th day of the 4th month, the famine was so severe in the city that there was no food for the people of the land. Then a breach was made in the city wall, And all the men of war fled, and went forth from the city by night by the way of the gate between the two walls, by the king's garden, though the Chaldeans were round the city. And the king went toward the Arabah. And the army of the Chaldeans pursued the king, and overtook Zedekiah in the plains of Jericho, and all his army was scattered from him. Then they took the king and brought him up to the king of Babylon at Riblah, and he passed sentence on him. They slew the sons of Zedekiah before his eyes, and put out the eyes of Zedekiah, and bound him in fetters, and took him to Babylon. In the 5th month, on the 7th day of the month, which was the 19th year of King Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, Nebuzaradan, the captain of the bodyguard, a servant of the king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem. And he burned the house of the Lord, and the king's house, and all the houses of Jerusalem, every great house he burned down. And all the army of the Chaldeans, who were with the captain of the guard, broke down the walls of Jerusalem round about. And the rest of the people who were left in the city, and the deserters who had deserted to the king of Babylon, and the rest of the multitude, Nebuzaradan the captain of the guard carried into exile. But the captain of the guard left some of the poorest of the land to be vine-dressers and ploughmen. The bronze pillars which were in the house of the Lord, and the stands and the bronze sea which were in the house of the Lord, the Chaldeans broke in pieces, and carried the bronze to Babylon. And they took the pots and the shovels and the snuffers and the basins and the dishes for incense, and all the vessels of bronze used in temple service, and the firepans and the basins and the bowls and the pots, and the candlesticks and the ladles and the censers of pure gold. And the 2 pillars, the 1 sea, and the 12 bronze bulls that were under the sea, and the stands, which King Solomon had made for the house of the Lord, the bronze of all these vessels was beyond weight. The 2 pillars, the 1 sea, and the 12 bronze bulls that were under the sea, and the stands, which King Solomon had made for the house of the Lord, the bronze of all these vessels was without weight. Each pillar was 18 cubits high, and a capital of bronze on it, and the height of the capital was 3 cubits, with latticework and pomegranates, all of bronze. And the 2nd pillar had the same, with pomegranates. And the captain of the guard took Sariah the chief priest, and Zephaniah the 2nd priest, and the 3 keepers of the threshold. And from the city he took an officer who was over the men of war, and 5 men of those who were in the king's presence, who were found in the city, and the secretary of the commander of the army, who mustered the people of the land, and 60 men of the people of the land, who were found in the city. And Nebuzaradan the captain of the guard took them, and brought them to the king of Babylon at Riblah. And the king of Babylon struck them down, and put them to death at Riblah in the land of Hamath. So Judah was taken into exile out of its land. And as for the people who were left in the land of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon had left, he appointed Gedaliah the son of Ahikam, son of Shaphan, as governor over them. When all the captains of the armies and their men heard that the king of Babylon had appointed Gedaliah, they came to Gedaliah at Mizpah, even Ishmael the son of Nethaniah, and Johanan the son of Kaariah, and Sariah the son of Tanhumeth the Netophathite, and Jazaniah the son of the Marcathite, they and their men. And Gedaliah swore to them and their men, saying, Do not be afraid of the Chaldean servants, but dwell in the land and serve the king of Babylon, and it shall be well with you. But in the 7th month Ishmael the son of Nethaniah, son of Elishama of the royal family, came with 10 men, and struck down Gedaliah and killed him, and the men of Judah and the Chaldeans who were with him at Mizpah. Then all the people, both small and great, and the captains of the armies, arose and went to Egypt, for they were afraid of the Chaldeans. And in the 37th year of the exile of Jehoiachin king of Judah, in the 12th month, on the 27th day of the month, Evil-Merodach king of Babylon, in the year that he began to reign, graciously freed Jehoiachin king of Judah from prison. And he spoke kindly to him, and gave him a seat above the seats of the kings who were with him in Babylon. So Jehoiachin put off his prison garments, and every day of his life he dined regularly before the king of Babylon. And his allowance, a regular allowance, was given him by the king of Babylon, a portion every day, as long as he lived.